Good morning. The second session of our convention is about to begin. Our primary objective is to make sure that we prepare parents, teachers, school boards to get children ready to be successful in life, to overcome all the negatives about school reform, public schools. We advocate for public education. That's our concern, public education. Right now, this is our annual conference that we have from all over the state. Right now, we've got 69 parishes represented in LSBA, being together, discussing their problems, because all problems aren't the same, but there are some commonalities that we all get to discuss.
Today, we're going to get into the theme of our convention, that Louisiana believes in public schools. As elected school board members, we need to be aware of what we believe in. We need to be able to speak to the issues of what we believe in, and we need to be able to be ambassadors for our public school systems and tout those successes. And in order for our school systems to be successful, we have to know the issues. We need to be able to explain the issues in a very straightforward messaging process. It's one of the areas that we have tried diligently over the last 30 months to refine and reform our message as local school board members in Louisiana, to promote the successes of public schools, because so often only the negative makes the media. As I travel around the state and work with school boards and superintendents, I often use this analogy. The Caddo Parish school system can deliver 30,000 kids to and from their homes to school and back home every day, 182 days out of the school year. You never see it in the media congratulating the transportation department and the principals and all the various people that it takes to make that happen, and the bus drivers to move kids, 30,000 kids to and from their homes and schools daily without incident. But you let one child get left on a school bus by accident, that makes the front page of the paper. We need to change that message as school board members and as a school boards association and as school system leaders. We need to promote the positives, and we need to be able to know what we're advocating for when we speak to our legislators, because we are an extension of the legislature. We are delegated by authority of the legislature to be the policymakers and overseers of public education in each of our individual school districts. And with that comes a great responsibility to be informed and to understand our roles and to be able to be on the same page when we communicate. That's part of a deliberate messaging strategy that we've tried to implement over the last 2 years at LSBA. What has helped us to do that is the development of an LSBA legislative framework. Our number one priority is ensuring that adequate funding is allocated by our state legislature to local school districts. The cost of providing an adequate education in Louisiana continue to rise. We understand the state's budget situation, but there's no better investment that our state leaders could make other than K-12 public education. That's a no-brainer, and we're hoping to make that pitch to our legislators in the upcoming session.
What kind of financial pressures are local school boards under?
The rising cost of benefits for employees, health insurance, the retirement system problems that we have in Louisiana, and just the cost of operating a school system. Buildings and facilities continue to need to be upgraded. Teacher salaries need to be increased. There's a number of challenges that school districts are facing. We need to implement more technology into our classrooms. That costs dollars. So we can't hardly have a discussion about public ed without having a discussion about funding. And that's why we need to work collaboratively with our legislators and our governor. As locally elected school board members, we all represent the same people as elected officials, and we need to make sure we prioritize K-12 public education.
And you also had some other priorities in the legislative agenda.
Yes, sir. We'd definitely like to see a pause in regards to accountability. We'd definitely like to see a slowdown as we transition to higher standards and the new assessments. We feel it's not fair to punish our schools as we make the major transition to more rigorous standards. And our current accountability system needs to be revamped. Local input needs to be provided. We need to use multiple measures of measuring student growth and not just focus on one test score at the end of the day.
We're still fighting for more money for public education, especially in the areas where we really need to dedicate ourselves, special education and other specific areas. But across the board, the state is still spending less than $4,000 per child to educate kids. And you simply cannot do a good job on that kind of budget. So that's going to be the key focus for the next year, especially in the coming session.
How does that figure compare with other states around the country?
Well, other states are spending $7,000, not including local funds, to educate each kid. And of course, they're showing up far higher on the result scale than we are. And that's a part of the problem. You can't solve education entirely by throwing money at it, but you can't teach if you don't have the basic supplies, equipment, and buildings to do it with.
I think we're all facing the same financial problems. With the battle is going to be an uphill battle for, I think, all of the school districts in Louisiana, being that there's such a shortfall in the budget this year with the governor, and hopefully with the new governor things can change, and hopefully that everything will come towards education for our children for the state of Louisiana.
One of the recommendations in the legislative agenda for the School Board Association is increasing the MFP 2.75%. What would that mean for your school system, and why is it needed?
That would mean a whole lot for us to get the 2.75 back into the school systems. It is very, very much needed. And again, all of this will be sent back to the local schools, local districts, for our kids.
My school district, St. Charles Parish Public School System, is one of those school systems that's been hit hard by the state education formula. State education formula, as you know, our school started out with what they called a whole harmless school district, and now it comes down to a situation where our school district does not receive the amount of dollars from the state that it should receive because of the funding mechanism that's in place, and we're steadily trying to deal with that by continuing some of the programs we have using local dollars. And the local dollars, as you know, that gets to a point where when it becomes recurring revenue that you have to use to fund projects locally, and you don't have that support coming from the state that you should have.
We have so many requirements in meeting the mandates of the state of Louisiana now. And not only are we required to meet the mandates, but the unfunded mandates. And for many, many years, we've been advocating and lobbying to have the increase for the unfunded mandates. And now we're talking about a $2.5 million requirement. And certainly we need it because there's so many programs that we're now having to offer to meet the state's requirement.
Funding is always a problem with education. It's been stagnant as far as the money that's been put in. What we live on the minimum foundation, and for many years, the same amount, about 4 or 5 years. Some of the money is being siphoned off to provide private funding, but they don't have the same accountability as we have as public school boards. And I just think it ought to be a fair, level playing field.
Financially, we have so many mandates that we can't afford as a small parish. There are so many things that are placed upon us that we like insurance and materials and all of this. So at the present time, we just can't handle it financially.
How important is that 2.75% increase in the MFP for your school system and other school systems?
Oh, we can imagine it'll be like having a Jubilee Day. We'll be excited about it because it is needed. It's something that has been promised, and we're waiting for it for many years now.
What has happened in our area, because we're rural, we've come from cotton to corn. And we have, our school system has become very small. And because of poverty in our area, it's very important for us to educate the ones who are there who cannot get out. And I stress the last 40 years of my life that we have people who are in an agro area who need education. So it's important that we are able to fund public education. That's where it is. So again, we are working in Tensas Parish as Knowlton, St. Joseph, and Waterproof to deal with the people that we have in an agricultural area.
If we have these cuts, we're going to lose vital programs to our children that they very much needed in order to face this new part testing. We'll lose programs if we have to do cuts. We'll lose good certified teachers because they're going to go where the money is. They're not going to stay around if they're not paid good. So that's bothering me because I want to keep these good people in place working to serve our children.
With the need for textbooks, the additional resources to help us accomplish our goal, which is to improve student outcomes, student achievement, and certainly with the teacher attrition concerns that we have, and oftentimes we find ourselves having to increase teacher-student ratios, and we do know the importance that what the research says about low class size. So we're making every effort to provide adequate staffing. We also have other challenges, transportation needs. You know, we're faced with buying new buses, and it's not unique to the St. Martin Parish school system. So school systems across the state will need every dollar that they can get their hands on to address the challenges that we face with the reform initiatives. We also have the Jump Start initiative, the Early Childhood initiative, and all these initiatives are wonderful, but we need the funds to make them effective programs.
One of the priorities for School Board Association in this legislative session, 2.75% increase in MFP. Your reaction to that?
Well, you're talking about $75 million. I'm going to be working very hard to see whether that money can be made available to them. The last increase in the MFP that they got was something that I insisted on, and that was largely a result of my efforts in 2013. So I have a record that is very clear, unambiguous in support of K-12 education to include funding increases. And so I will continue to work in that regard, but we have to be cognizant of the overall budget situation, which is very bleak in Louisiana with a $1.6 billion problem as we try to fund government next year just to what we're doing this year. And so with that type of problem on the horizon for the year that starts July 1st, it will be very difficult.
Obviously, that's been in law. That's part of the formula that increases 2.75%, and the state just hadn't been in a position to be able to do that because of the financial challenges it's facing. But obviously, inflation exceeds the current budget that anybody has, and in education, K-12 education, it absolutely needs to keep up at least with that. So the 2.75 is in there for a reason. I think it ought to be recognized. The state has been unable to do it because of the budget situation. I hope moving forward we will.
I think we need to look at the fact that the state spending on public education has dipped as a percentage, and certainly it's important that we understand what it takes to fund a minimal public education in this state. And I think we need to be about making it a priority. Again, we have an incredible opportunity in front of us, Louisiana, with regards to the job announcements that are being made. I would certainly say that those job announcements need to be filled by qualified people, and we do that through our school system.
First of all, we're never going to have an adequate focus and discussion about the MFP or teacher pay until we stabilize the sort of immediate budget crisis. And that's why I've laid out a clear path to doing that by calling an immediate special session. It's the moment I'm sworn in as governor, focused on spending and tax reform. That would certainly include creating more flexibility in areas of the budget apart from education so that we can deal with downturns, and it would certainly include reviewing all state tax credits and exemptions and deductions. Some are just giveaways, and we need to recognize that, and we need to do away with those, and we would under my leadership. After we stabilize that immediate budget situation, then we can have a big focus and an appropriate discussion on MFP and teacher pay.
You know, Louisiana is poised right now for great things. Never before in the history of our state have we been looking at $80 billion, $90 billion, $70 billion worth of industry coming to Louisiana, willing to invest in Louisiana. The next governor faces challenges, but more importantly has opportunity. This is a moment of opportunity for Louisiana. And I have watched much too many failed opportunities for our state. Leaders who we thought were going to change the state, improve the reputation of the state, stop the practices of the past that have challenged Louisiana as it competes with other states in America. But now is our moment in time. And despite all the challenges we face from an economic standpoint, a financial standpoint with the budget, despite all the concerns we've talked about as we struggle with this debate about accountability and about what we want our school system to look like, how we want to prepare our students, we are on the cusp of an even greater state. You've given me the opportunity every morning to wake up and think about how I can go out and convince people Louisiana is a place where they want to visit. And we have had record-setting years with dramatically less budgets than my predecessors and disproportionate cuts visited upon my office, yet we've gotten results. More people visiting Louisiana than ever before, spending more money. They're most likely to come back and visit again because seldom do they say, I never want to go back there again. They can't wait to come back. And when they come back, they're more likely to invest in Louisiana. And when they invest in Louisiana, they're more likely to retire here and stay here and put down permanent roots here because they've been exposed to the wonderful lifestyle and warm, rich people, diverse people that make Louisiana unlike any other place in the world. This is going to be our opportunity to elect someone who has a proven ability to succeed in the legislative arena and do progressive things legislatively, to serve you in 2 statewide elected positions, leaving each one much better than when he started. Literally doing more with less, although that expression is a trite one, and with the ability to bring people together reach a consensus and move forward. Not someone who's going to stick his finger in the air and see which way the wind is blowing, or take a poll to see what a position should be, or change positions constantly because it's a convenient thing to do, or bring Washington practices and principles to Louisiana. We don't need that in Louisiana. We have our own practices, our own principles, our own spirit, our own resiliency, our own commitment to greatness here in Louisiana. But we need the leader who is going to make that happen and bring our people together to pursue the tremendous opportunities that await us in the future. The job creators in business in Louisiana need our young people to be educated in a manner that will enable them to accept these job opportunities that are before us. In K-12 education, I would suggest to you that we need to focus on the abilities: ability, accountability, stability, which teachers have not enjoyed over the course of the past several years, and most importantly, responsibility. We all have a responsibility to the people of this state, and I will work with you day and night to make certain that our K-12 education system is the way you want it to be and is providing job opportunities and educational enhancement for the young people of Louisiana, and I ask you for your vote and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Dominique, and I appreciate you being here this morning. I want to thank Scott, Richard again, and all of the staff of the LSBA and you members, and I want to thank my fellow candidates for being here. It's been a great discussion, and I've enjoyed it. You know, Louisiana does have a lot of reason to be optimistic about the future. There are great opportunities, but we're not going to be able to realize those opportunities if we don't meet our challenges head on. That's what we haven't been doing over the past 7 years, and that's why they continue to get worse. Clearly, we can do better, but it's going to take a bipartisan approach. You can't just line up the Democrats for this and the Republicans for that. It's going to take a leader who has a proven track record of working in this legislature to get Republicans and Democrats together to agree on critical things so that we can move forward together and put Louisiana first again. And a few closing thoughts on education.
As your next governor, I can assure you we're not going to go outside of Louisiana to find a state superintendent of education who doesn't have the credentials to be an assistant principal at an elementary school. That's not going to happen, because we owe more than that to our educators around the state of Louisiana. We owe more than that to our kids, and there's too much talent in this state to do that. In fact, there's too much talent right here in this room to ever think about doing that. Over the last 7 years on the Education Committee and in the House in general, I have been standing up for public education for our children around the state of Louisiana. I've been fighting along the side of you. And I've heard some good things from these fellows up here with me today, but I just want to tell them it's been lonely over the last 7 years fighting against Bobby Jindal and his destructive policies. Now, we can do a lot better in Louisiana. I'm absolutely convinced of that. But we can only do better if we make better decisions collectively about who we entrust to hold the office of governor. And I will tell you that as your next governor, I'm going to get up every day worried about the people of Louisiana, and that will not be manifested anywhere more than in how we approach education in the state of Louisiana. And you will always, while I am governor, have a seat at the table. You will have my ear, and we will work together to fashion education policy that moves this state forward with tough standards, with real accountability, that prepares our students for success, because the state of Louisiana cannot be what we want it to be unless we do exactly that. That's what I'm committed to do. I'm asking you to stand with me now, just as I've been standing with you over the last 7 years, and let's make it a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Vitter.
Thanks, Dominique, and thanks to all of you for what you do and for the invitation for us to be here today. This has been a really great visit. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. When I first announced my intentions to run for governor, I said very clearly, and I've said it 300 times since then, this is going to be my last political job, elected or appointed, period. And that means I'm going to get up every day and try to do right by all of Louisiana, from our best and brightest to our most vulnerable. I'm not going to kick our big challenges down the road or play politics with them or worry about what sells in Iowa or New Hampshire. I'm going to face those big challenges head on and propose clear, bold solutions, building a team that includes all of you. After I said that, announcing my intentions, then the second step was I traveled the state and listened, and I'm still doing that. I hosted leadership forums all around the state on all of our crucial challenges, each one involving leading experts and citizens, stakeholders on that specific challenge. And it's not an accident that the very first one I convened was about K-12 education. It was last August 12th. It was right here in Shreveport. And it's not an accident that I invited Scott and several other representatives of local school systems around the state. I'm still doing that, holding these leadership forums around the state. And then the third step after listening, reaching out, is to lead. And I'm putting together specific, concrete ideas and solutions, putting together the best ideas from around the state and leading, including by laying out my clear priorities, which you have on K-12 education. But that process doesn't stop there. It's an ongoing process, and it constantly involves partnership and collaboration. I want to continue to build that team. I want all of you to be on it. You offer tremendous insight and expertise, so continue to give me ideas and feedback in any way you can. And after you do that, after you look at my ideas and offer your own, and we have that dialogue and we move forward together, I would be honored, truly honored, for you to support my effort to become our next governor. Great being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitter. Mr. Angel.
Thank you. I too want to thank Mr. Richard and the School Board Officials Association for allowing us to be here and spend part of our day with you as we discuss the challenges facing Louisiana. And it is those challenges that when I began to pray about whether or not I would offer myself as a candidate, when Diane and I and our family were in prayer about whether this was the calling for us, and that happened in October of last year, where I responded to that because I thought, quite frankly, that as I listened to the trajectory of the conversation in Louisiana, there was a place and a space for someone like myself, someone from a small town, someone from a middle-class family who learned how to work till the sun went down, a person who worked across party lines, or worked across gender lines, across geographic lines, across racial lines. At every step along the way where I have had the opportunity to serve, I left the place better than I found it. I'm very fortunate to be born to a family where public service and service to others was atop the list. I'm the son of a conservative father, a businessman, a public servant, a war veteran who taught me the value of education, who taught me the value of teamwork and homework. I'm the son of a God-fearing mother who gave birth to 9 kids and showed me the value of life and showed me the strong strength and yet the gentleness of a woman's touch and a woman's love. I'm the brother to 8 siblings that shared an incredible dysfunctional kitchen table with mom and dad 22 feet under that table as we learn to respect the opinions of each other and we learn to get along and play for the name on the front of the jersey, which was our family name, and not so much for the name on the back of the jersey. I believe it is time for a leader in Louisiana that will play for the name on the front of the jersey, that is Louisiana, than their own individual name. I believe our greatest days are ahead of us. I think we've got some good things, but we need leadership, and not only leadership in our next governor. As I've crossed this state and I've listened and I've learned, what I've confirmed is people certainly want a governor that's right on life and right on family and right on gun ownership and right on education and right on energy. They want a governor that's right on people. And humbly, I believe, with all due respect to my opponents, that I am that candidate that best understands being right on people. I want to congratulate my opponents for jumping into this race. I want to thank them and their families for having the courage to put themselves out there and to make the sacrifices that they do. It's an incredible opportunity to have, to be able to be at this point, in this place, in this spot in Louisiana. And I would say that as you look and you surround yourself with the qualifications of the candidates for governor, I'd ask that you look long and hard. And if you want cooperation and you want a seat at the table and you're just looking for a guy that you think you just might want to share and lean forward with, there'll be place and there'll be a space. Because I don't have to get a new software program to change. What you see is what you get. We only need not only a leader, this state is starving for a manager. This state is also starving for a manager. I believe, again, my experience as a businessman, as a local official, and as a family man qualifies me. God bless you, God bless your families, and thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. We certainly want to thank all of the candidates for coming up to North Louisiana for this forum today to speak on education.
The Workforce Investment Council was tasked with addressing the need for a skilled craft workforce. Due to the amazing renaissance in Louisiana of the manufacturing industry, for one, there was a need to address the shortage of skilled craft workers for all of the thousands of jobs that were coming to Louisiana.
7 years ago, there was legislation formed by Representative Jim Fannin and others that would create the Workforce Investment Council. And the goals for this council would be twofold. One was to be able to give our children a link to how they can get these great jobs we have in our state. And the second is to help all the state agencies that are affected by workforce the opportunity to understand how to align to these workforce needs. And it took leadership like Representative Fannin, who I'm sorry is not here with us today, to help get this legislation done and to bring this to the forefront. And what this commission, and I want to make sure we understand there's three different groups. You hear of the Workforce Commission, which has a trailer downstairs, and that's our old Department of Labor. Then you have WIBs, which are the Workforce Investment Boards, and there's 18 of them throughout our state. And they work in the local areas of trying to align our workforce needs. And then the third group is the Workforce Investment Council, which I'm a part of. And it's made up of 22 of our business leaders from the various business sectors in our state. It's made up of all the department heads, and then a few people from the municipalities. And we set out early on, and we understood in the beginning that our first major obstacle was our occupational forecast that we presented every 2 years here in the state. And we found that many people in higher education as well as in K-12 did not feel that was viable in today's world. So we sat down, and it took us 3 years to retool the occupational forecast. Then when we finished that, we said, now how will we present this and how will we start to achieve our goals? Our first goal being the students. And we determined that we needed to rate using stars the 700 occupations we had in our state and rate them not only statewide but also regionally. And we used, for that rating purposes, we used the long-term forecast that we had retooled, the short-term forecast, we also used the current job openings, and finally we used what those occupations pay. And we used those 4 parameters to determine the stars, with 5 stars being the highest rated occupations and 1 star being the lowest. And about 3 years ago, we started going around the state presenting this web-based tool that could be used to help our students. But as we went around and we met the last 2 years, we've met in the Counselors Association annual meetings, and we learned that we needed to take it to the next step. And that next step would be twofold. First of all, we need to work with higher ed, and we needed to work with other training providers to link the occupation with the curriculum, so that when a student looked at this website and they determined that they wanted to go into welding or become an electrician, they need to know where they could go in their area to find that training. And then the next thing was, the counselors told us that you need to have a method to demonstrate to the children how much it's going to cost to live the life they want to live. So we added another web tool that would link to this, that would allow the student to put in the life dreams that they had. If they wanted to own a house, own a car, have internet, and to put all of this in there to show them how much they would need to make for those jobs. We now have, and we have it downstairs, and I ask you to go take a look at it. We have a tool downstairs. It's in the Workforce Commission's trailer, and it is the web tool that shows both STAR jobs and My Life. And we're going to use this as a means to link our students to these great occupations.
Yeah, I think early on BSF understood that it is really important to be able to influence and be a part of building the future of our future workforce. So I would summarize our engagement efforts in 3 words, and I've already used one of the words: engagement, collaboration, and in partnership. And I would say a couple years ago, we really took a step back to rethink how we were engaging our local school board, our local high schools, our community colleges, and our universities. And really what we wanted to do is take an active engagement philosophy. We see ourselves as an industry leader, and I think it was important that we were taking the lead from an industry perspective to support the initiatives that were happening across the state. So some examples of the things that we do on a local basis in partnership with our local folks, from very simple things to, I would say, more strategic long-term objectives. So some simple things that we do. You know, through the support of our local high schools, through their career days and their local career fairs, we make sure that we have representation at all of the schools in our parish. And we don't send managers. I don't attend the career fairs. In fact, we send our employees. We send the operators that are in our organizations that have only been out of school for 3, 4, or 5 years. You know, they show up in the parking lot with the brand new pickup truck, with the brand new bass boat. And that really, we find, has a significant impact to young people today. We also sponsor our Ascension Parish Robotics team to ensure that students are exposed to the fundamentals of what STEM can do for them as they move throughout their educational career. Other things like Bring Your Child to Work Today. You know, we work in the chemical industry, and historically the chemical industry hasn't been open to inviting folks into our plants. But we find that to be very, very important. And so what we've done over the past year is we have developed a Bring Your Child to Work Day, where this past fall we had close to 60 students aged 10 to 13, and another 50 students aged 13 to 17. And we thought that was a very, very worthwhile effort. Certainly, we also put our money where our mouth is. Within Ascension Parish, BSF is very, very active in providing scholarships, not only to students who are pursuing a 4-year education, but also equally important is we provide scholarships to students that are choosing to pursue a career at a 2-year community college, either through P-Tech or some sort of skilled trade. And one of the things that we have ongoing right now, actually in partnership with River Parish's Community College, is we're setting up a BSF Tech Academy, which is targeted at juniors and sophomores. It's a 1-week program sponsored by BSF at River Parish's Community College that exposes young students to all different types of options within the STEM community. One of the other things I want to make sure that I mention is, you know, we see this as a multi-level type of strategy. So not only partnering with local school boards, but also continuing that through community colleges and the 4-year college system. So one of the things that we've been working very diligently with is our partnership with River Parishes. We announced not too long ago a $100,000 donation to them to help them build an advanced technical center on their campus in Ascension Parish, as well as we're furnishing them with close to $400,000 worth of equipment that these young students can be trained on the newest technologies that are going to be required for them when they actually go out into the workforce. And so the whole idea is to ensure that we're preparing students within our local parishes, within our local state, to be able to take advantage of the jobs that are available right here in Louisiana. And I don't think we have, we don't have all the answers yet, but we're certainly heading in the right direction. I think through our engagement, through our collaboration, and through our partnerships, I think it's demonstrated a strong commitment to certainly investing and preparing the children for the very bright future that we have.
Well, I think over the years, we in education have partnered with business and industry in many different ways. But really, until the last few years with this Jumpstart initiative, it's been primarily surface level activities. You know, we talked about career days and job shadowing and a little career exploration. But with the passage of the legislation creating these regional teams, and this is something I think all school boards really need to get heavily involved in, what we've got now are true partnerships with business and industry, with the school systems, and the community and technical colleges and trade associations within each of the individual areas. I know in our particular region, we have worked with our Chamber of Commerce, we've worked with the business people, we have begun to put them on our advisory teams as we're planning curriculum for the students pursuing these particular initiatives. And while we talked a little bit about the STAR system and the high-paying jobs, each of the different regions in the state have actual industry that is particular to that particular region. I know down in South Louisiana, we in the greater New Orleans area, not only the ones listed or that the gentleman just spoke about, you know, we've got a tremendous process technology program, and in partnership with Nunez Community College, we'll have students attend their last 2 years of high school and complete most of the industry-based certification to come out and work in the plants as process technologists. With the film industry, you know, I guess we're talking about being Hollywood South down here. You know, we've got a tremendous program where we're training our kids to walk right into those particular high-paying jobs, hospitality, tourism. But I think that the biggest point that we're trying to make today is that collaboration among the school systems, the school boards, business and industry, the local chambers, the vocational and tech schools have become tremendously stronger. And it gets to the real meat of it. It's not just one day kids going to look to see what happens there. It's a really intensive planned program of study within their curriculum. And these students will graduate with an industry-based certification, and possibly they can move on to 2- and 4-year degrees, or in many cases go right into the workforce. So we want to thank the legislature for really, and you know, Representative Fannin, I see Senator Murray here, who's helped tremendously with all of these programs that have helped us to formulate within legislation the mechanism that we can bring to our students a high level of student achievement and a high employability level. And one just final thing, and I want to make a point with the panelists here, we're working very hard within our community that all students have access to these pathways. We have students with disabilities that we are formulating special programs for within the Jump Start pathways so that these children will also maximize their potential and walk out of high school with employability.
So I want to talk a little bit about Praxair and our investment in Louisiana. We have been in Louisiana with our hydrogen business, our welding business certainly, and retail facilities for many years. But also, and I think to the spirit of Deidre's question, we have invested into STEM programs and mentoring programs with K-12 across the globe in many areas. STEM, but also some other areas that are not necessarily manufacturing intensive. I'll talk a little bit about Skills Pipeline, which is our program for welding talent here, but I'm going to also try to make the connection and connect the dots so that you can, it may inspire some things for your school districts where perhaps welding or construction are not the trades that you're trying to build. And the Skills Pipeline program is certainly very outcome-based. There are 5 pillars to the program. First, community events, which I think are scalable across all types of opportunities. Secondly, we offer scholarships for students in the areas, and particularly in this case, we've partnered with the Louisiana Community and Technical Colleges system in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We also have instructorships, and professional development opportunities for our students, as well as continuing education for existing laborers and incumbent workers. When you think about two of those pillars, the community events and the instructorships, you see that those are scalable no matter what the field that we're talking about. In the community events, we actually bring these opportunities to the communities. And so we've been working hand in hand with local school boards, with community leaders, bringing high schools out to areas like the convention center here and talking about the opportunities. Specifically, in August when we launched Skills Pipeline, we were talking about welding opportunities, but forestry, other opportunities that exist for us driving, for example, can also fit that model. Also, in our instructorships program, we are not only, apparently the microphone loves instructorships. We are not only helping to prepare the teachers that exist with our partnering schools, with the schools with which we collaborate, but we are also having our R&D team members and our local PDI teams work hand in hand with instructors in our communities here to help better prepare the next generation for tech talent. And so I think that regardless of whether we're talking about welding or construction or other needs, these types of programs and focus on outcomes can help to bring success in our communities here.
Confronting Educational Myths and Lies with Research and Logic. I loved the title. So here are some of the myths and lies. American schools fail international competitions. Lie. Retention is good policy. Early childhood education is a poor investment. And charter and private schools outperform public schools. Now, he's a researcher and he's a college professor, and he examined the international tests with that researcher's eye, and he said, you know what, we're not failing. And he proved by data the value of preschool. Now, he denounced retention as a bad practice for most kids. And he examined charter schools and he applauded public schools. And the best quote I can give you from him at the end of his speech was, "Our public schools are underfunded and underappreciated. We perform miracles in our classrooms every day." But we have to get away from the constant testing of our children. Now, I know it's important to assess what our children know and can do, so I am not against testing. But I am against the barrage of many, many, many tests that do not inform instruction. Our third graders should not be sitting for 8.5 to 9 hours, even if it is over several days, to find out what they know and can do. We should push for more creativity in our instruction, project-based learning, internships, and real-life experiences. Now, you know and I know that hands-on learning has always been a spark that ignited our students. Problem solving, critical thinking, and communicating well are the hallmark of a 21st century learning. Now, although STEM education is very important, I would like to make it STEAM and include the arts, because arts education, music, drama, printing, photography, whatever, is the spark that makes a lot of our children want to come to school every day.
My theme for my year is leading children to excellence, and I really have a focus on low-performing schools and what we can do at the national level and at the local and state level to make sure that we do not have any low-performing schools, and things that school board members can do to change that.
This is a really interesting time because Congress has just started, and both the House and the Senate are working to reauthorize the major federal education law, the ESEA, Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So it's really ground zero for the discussion about standards and funding and how much local flexibility school districts should have. And of course, that's where LSBA is such a great partner with us in advocating those issues.
And tell us, what potential impact could that have on schools here in Louisiana and obviously teachers and students?
The big message is school boards need to have flexibility. I mean, they're elected by their communities to make decisions. They need to be able to make the best decisions in the best interest. That's why the federal funds should not come with a lot of strings, and we certainly don't want the federal government micromanaging education.
In some places, charter schools are public schools, so we are talking, authorized by a local public school board. In most cases, they are not operated under the aegis of a public school board. They are operated with a different playing field. It's not a level playing field, academically or financially. In some instances, we do not know where the financial monies are being spent because we're not allowed to investigate. In my own school district, my little school district in Nanuet, we have outside claim auditors, we have inside auditors, we have external auditors, so that we know where every single dollar goes to in our education system. And I think that's really important. I think the public monies, the public should know where those public dollars go.
Annually at the convention, at this time, we recognize various folks who are worthy of recognition. Unfortunately, our two legislators of the year could not be with us today, but we'll say a few words about them before we move into some other important recognitions. In your program, you'll note that Senator Dan Blade Morrish from the Jeff Davis Parish area, was our Senator of the Year. Not only did Senator Morrish help us do something as an association that hadn't been done in quite some time, he was a professional gentleman throughout the process, and is a true friend of the Louisiana School Boards Association and a wholehearted supporter of public education. Not only did he help us accomplish moving a bill out of Senate Education in this last legislative session, he even allowed us the opportunity to present the bill on his behalf because he was busy trying to deal with the state budget and all kinds of other issues on other various committees that he serves on. His bill was instrumental in getting additional dollars for career and technical education through the supplemental course allocations, and it was quite an accomplishment for the first time in several years that a school board association sponsored instrument moved throughout the process and was signed by the governor. So we thank Senator Morrish. To the folks from Jeff Davis, please relay our congratulations to him. He was very unfortunate that he couldn't be here today. Our other legislator of the year this year is Representative Ted James. Not only is Ted a bulldog when it comes to fighting for public education, he does it in a way that gets everybody's attention and with both feet on the ground. He valiantly led the charge to address recovery school district issues this session, and also assisted the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board on a number of matters in stopping the number of measures that were designed to basically diminish the authority of the school board there, which has the propensity to affect all of us. So we want to recognize Ted. To our delegation from East Baton Rouge, please express our congratulations to Representative Ted James.
The school boards are being bombarded because there's this fallacy out there that school boards are bad, and school board members are there because they believe in what's going on in education. They want to have a voice. Legislature and the reform movement has taken away a lot of the responsibility given to school board members, and so we are attempting to get some of that responsibility back. But the reformers have to understand that we have the same goals that they have, that we want the best that we can do for our children.
I think the importance is that our kids are getting one of the best educations in public schools, and if things can continue and funds continue, it'll only get better.
Oh, there's no question about the importance of public education. Public education is the reason that the United States of America is as great as this nation is because we have left no child behind. Every child in the United States has an equal opportunity for a public education. If it was not for public education, education would be limited only to those who could afford it, just like we have with health care and a number of other things.
I tell you, I was educated in public education. I stand for public education because I think this is what our system demands, that we educate all boys and girls at the expense of the taxpayer, and we're going to support public education.
It's a vital component of a community. The local schools, the communities that they serve, the parents and various other organizations that depend a lot on the public school system. And you also have the business sector that relies on public schools to provide a trained, ready workforce. And given the economic growth that's expected in certain parts of the state, I believe public schools can play a big part in providing a trained workforce.
Our forefathers founded the public education system, and to go back to the vouchers and the charters simply would mean we're going backwards. It's certainly important to give all of our people in the state of Louisiana the opportunity to get a quality public education that we all have a stake in.
It is a great feeling to see so many local school board members from across the state representing every parish. Local superintendents are here, business and industry people are here. It's a great feeling to see, especially given the weather conditions that we're fighting, inclement weather conditions, that we have this much attendance in Shreveport this year. It definitely is refreshing to know that our local leaders want to be engaged, they want to be part of the process.
It is the right way for your children to go. It's the right way. It's public education is from the heart. And if those of you that are out there that remember when I'm older, and you remember those Miss Marys and Miss Smiths and the little ladies that took care of you when you were young, that's what we're after. Education for our public school children.
Public schools sending the message to the masses in Louisiana that it works. Public school is the great equalizer and a cornerstone of our democracy.